Was I not recording this whole time? All right. I'm meeting up with the folks over at Zeknova Tire. They're bringing some stuff down to test. I've been chatting with them maybe since December, right before New Year's basically. Been trying to figure out how these are going to end up here for sale and figure out what kind of sizes that drivers here want to see. So Brian just showed up. There he is.
Hey guys.
So what, you going down to
Orlando.
Okay.
We're gonna meet up with LZ and we're gonna shred some tires. We got the oval rented and the skid pad, so.
Kind of cool, like you get to go out and drive on the same track that the Formula
For
E
sure,
guys drive
yeah,
at.
exactly, yeah.
And it made me realize how much power my car doesn't have. It only has about 380 horse.
They're most all over 600 wheels. And then we got Taylor that's gonna be there and Alberto's gonna be testing too.
So everyone's gonna give these things a pretty solid torture test, and then we're gonna be testing at Englishtown. That's our home track. And we'll see how they hold up on our cars on that tarmac. So if these take the abuse, then I think we'll be in pretty good shape.
Right on,
Yeah,
good
man.
stuff, yeah.
Appreciate it.
All right, okay, thank you.
So we got everything sorted from yesterday. Now we have everything loaded up. We're not testing yet. I figured it would be smart to maybe do like a tire talk. You know, the most expensive part of drifting, aside from the car, is the tire consumption. When you go to compete, you want something reliable. You need them to be consistent, and that usually means that they're expensive comparative to like practice tires. So we're gonna set up and we're gonna do a little bit of a tire talk. We're gonna go over tread depth, the tread wear ratings, go over what's desirable in these tires, what we look for, go over some of the things that are less than desirable in terms of wear and consistency. Okay guys, there are a few things we look for out of these tires when we're drifting, and longevity is the first and foremost, and we try to balance that with next grip. A tire that has all the grip in the world is really cool, but it's not cool if it only lasts for like 2 runs, because that's a minute or less usually. And that's super lame, because then you do your 2 runs, you gotta go off and change it. And then the next thing you probably, the most important thing in all of this is even tire wear. And that's where things start to get interesting. So this is, I would call this the club favorite. A lot of guys like running these. These are the Federal 595 Super Steel, AKA SS. This one didn't have such a good review as you could imagine. There's this whole strip right here missing from the center of it. Here's another one that did exactly the same thing. Same pair of tires. So you would think that the odds probably are that, you know, you're not getting the same kind of trouble from all these different batches of tires, things get mixed in, right? Apparently not the case. Not to say that you don't have good results, and I had really good results. And if you want to just zoom in, I'm not lying. If you want to check, this is a real Federal 595 SS. I didn't do anything funny with this. I literally ran it on the car and I saved it for the scenario. This was run on the same day, same run sessions, same layout of the course as those other ones that I just showed you. Pat and I were in the same running group for that event. So yeah, I asked him why he pulled off, and he was like, oh man, my tires are falling apart. And I'm like, wow, that's crazy. And a lot of that will either boil down to like manufacturing error, or there's differences in car setup. His car has a lot more power than mine when we ran. He doesn't like running the Federals anymore because of that. So, I mean, I'm probably not gonna run them anymore either, just because they don't last as long anymore for me. Because the last time I ran these, I went through, I think 8 of them in about 2 hours. The other thing you wanna look out for, this is an Achilles. And this one started to blister up and fall apart. Now this is probably the firmest tire out of this whole bunch, because this is a 400 tread wear and it really shows. They make a ton of smoke. They don't have a lot of grip, but surprisingly enough, they tend to fall apart. You can see the whole circumference of this tire, and that strip right there is delaminated and blistered. And I was super frustrated with these because in the past I had really good luck with them on my car, my old car, that had under 300 horsepower. So now having that car with 380 will consume these very quickly. These were brand new to dead in about 4 laps at the front track of Englishtown. For those of you that don't know what that layout is like, that is about 45 seconds to a minute of total runtime. Maybe that's even a little long, but let's say 3 to 4 runs, that's 4 minutes or less of runtime on a pair of brand new tires. That's like really unacceptable and super frustrating. So this is the Hot Boy Tire Supreme. All the cool guys were running these last year and maybe the year before that. These are the Zeknova Tires. This was supposed to be like their ultra long life practice tire. It's supposed to have really good wear and really good grip. I'd say as a whole, the grip was decent. I mean, it's rated as a 280 compound, but it really feels more like a 380. I put them on my S14 and I didn't change any of the alignment specs and it made my car slow. You're like, well, how can just changing your tires make you slow? I would have to wait a little longer for the car to set up before you get back on the throttle. And instead of it hooking up and moving like it would with the Federals, it would just kind of float around and make a ton of smoke. They would last forever. I was actually getting like 20 laps out of a pair of these when I was driving solo laps. But that being said, I also used way less of them, so I was able to actually go out and drive more and have a little more fun because I wasn't in the pits wrestling with wheels and tires. I didn't have to load up as much stuff. I could actually just get out and drive, which is really nice, especially in a club setting because you're not trying to win, you're not trying to win a practice day. With the Federals, I would go through 12 in a track day, and that's just one day of driving, and that's really annoying and really expensive. You don't get to like hang out and chill. When you finish your session, you got to go up to the tire machines and get to work and change them because normally there's a line. This particular example here, I don't know if something changed in the production quality. I have more that look like this. This started to chunk up and fall apart. And again, I pulled off the track because I heard a noise from the back of the car and I didn't know what it was because it was unfamiliar to me. And it just turned out that the tire was just slapping around on the asphalt and making crazy noises behind the car. So I'm not going to be running these anymore for a couple reasons, mainly because you can't get them anymore and the replacements have been super expensive. So I'm not really turned on by that. And to have some positive notes for you guys, this is probably my favorite tire that I've run. This is the GT Radial SX2. They used to run these in Formula Drift. These are a 200 shred wear, and these have the most consistent wear out of all the tires I've run last season. Considering that it was a 200 compound, the tire life was acceptable. I'd probably get 8 to 10 runs out of them, just taking it easy. But the most important thing with these was that the grip was ultra consistent the whole time. The Federals, they would kind of get hot in some points and then you'd have to let them cool off and then the grip would be okay again. The Zestinos, I would hit a point throughout half of their life where they would feel ultra slick, ultra greasy, and then I relaxed for like a lap or two and then it was fine until the end of its life. So kind of weird, especially considering like those other two tires, they still had tons of tread, but they just felt funny. These feel exactly the same until there's no rubber left. And the only reason you can tell the difference is because the car got a little looser and it's not like a drastic change. Like it just feels correct the whole way through. Super confident with these, easy to tandem with because you can get away with a lot. And to show you what I'm talking about, these are the tires here that I actually ran. These tires looked like this one when I actually went back out on track. I just wanted to see how far you could actually push it because I wasn't too worried about the layout of the day that I was driving on these. So you can see here on the outside edge, it still has the rubber left. And here it started to cord, but it didn't start to chunk or delaminate. The only indication that I had that there was nothing left back there was that it actually started making noise. It still felt grippy. I don't know how, but it did. And then on the other one, you can even see like the belt. This one you can actually see the steel belt in some spots. Like that's steel, not cord anymore. So first tires I've ever actually been able to run all the way down to dead. So some of the data that I want to provide for you guys are usable tread width. So that's the distance from here to here, from shoulder to shoulder. And then the actual tread depth measured from the outside tread to in here at the core of the tire. So this is a 235 4017, and this has a tread width, and I'll go ahead and call that about 9 3/4, maybe 9 9¼ to maybe 9 3/8, so somewhere in that range. I can't measure tread depth on this, obviously it's too far gone, but what I do want to highlight is that manufacturers, even though they have the same advertised ratio for width, it might not actually measure out to be the same. This is the Achilles ATR2 in a 255/35/18. And this measures at about, I'll call that 9 7/8. It's not really at the 10-inch mark there across. And this is a Federal 595 RSR. And this comes in closer to about 10 and I'll call that 1/8 of an inch. So same advertised size, different measured width. Let's take our trusted digital calipers. We'll measure with our ultra high-tech fancy digital calipers here. These came from AutoZone, and this measures at about 5.8 millimeters of tread depth. This is brand new, so I'm actually surprised it's not closer to like 6. And then we'll measure his buddy here. This comes out at a tread depth of almost the same, maybe 1/10 of a millimeter difference. This was 5.8, this is 5.7. And now these are the Zeknova Super Sports. Branded Lake Sea Steel, because these are like early production ones, but they are from the same people. This is rated as a 240 tread wear. And these are supposed to be like a practice deep tread width tire. You can actually look here, like this isn't an illusion from the shadows or anything. This is actually pretty deep. Let's see, the Federals over there, those measured at 5.8 millimeter. So this comes out to 7.3, we could round that up, 7.4. Yeah, 7.4 millimeters of tread depth from the top of the tread to the core of the tire. I mean, it is cool that there is a little extra meat packed onto here. You could probably get a couple extra runs just from that alone if you have your settings correct. And so I know that this is advertised as a 240 tread wear, but it feels really tacky to the hand, to the skin. I know that doesn't mean a whole lot because I'm not driving on them. I don't know what they really perform like. But just at first glance, first impression, this feels really tacky and really soft. This is advertised as a 245/40/17. I wanted something like a 225/45, but it's not available. So I'm hoping that these are running a little bit on the skinny side. So let's see, from the edge of the shoulder to about the edge of the shoulder, this comes in at, I'll call that 9 5/8, give or take. Whereas, okay, so that's good. This is closer to what this measures out at, and this measured 9 3/8 of an inch across. So this isn't that much wider. It is slightly wider, but I wouldn't call this a drastic change. And then this is the big boy version. This is 265/35/18. So let's see what these measure out at. So these are pretty wide. From edge of the shoulder to edge of the shoulder, this is closer to, I'd even call that 10 3/8, man. Maybe 10 1/2. It's pretty heckin' wide. And this does have the same tread depth as the other guy because they're the same style of tire, same compound, same. And then we have these guys. Now these are the Zeknova RS606 in the 140 compound. So let's see if there's any variance between this one and then the 265 that we just measured behind me. So this mounted on the wheel, this actually has lesser tread width available. This is showing about, I'll call that 10 1/8 of an inch across. I don't know if that's a really good metric to test on, but this actually measures out to be considerably skinnier. That's crazy. I wouldn't expect this tread depth to be as deep as the practice tire, but let's see. Slide this out. So 6 millimeters. This is slightly deeper than the Federals that we have on hand. 1/5 of a millimeter different. I wouldn't really call that significant. I want to test on them, but I can't. I would bet that because they're so sticky, they wouldn't last as long. Just in my experience, I'm kind of bummed. I really wanted to run these up front and in back to figure out if I like the compound, but it's not going to be warm enough for that because we're here in the Northeast, and the warmest day we'll have in the next week is going to be like 40 degrees Fahrenheit, ambient air temp. So tires this sticky don't like to operate at an ambient air temp of like 40 degrees or under, because that means the tarmac is even colder than that. So these aren't going to work, and for safety's sake, I'll probably run something different in the front just so I don't have any loss of steering input. I'm excited to test these. Super blessed that I'll have a test day coming up. I'm gonna meet up with Chris Knapp and his buddies over at Flipsco. So yeah, hopefully we'll get some good data for you all and figure out whether or not these work. Stay tuned.